Malachi asked a question about boundaries versus being inconsiderate and selfish. You kind of alluded to that, but I think when it comes to setting boundaries with people in your life who are pushing them, it might be oftentimes it's family or people that are close to you, and they don't understand boundaries, or they're pushing you, or they want you to. I think of an example. Maybe you're on a tight budget, and maybe you have some young kids, and your family's shaming you for not going on the family vacation, but you're saying, we can't afford that. That'd be an unwise financial decision for us. But then they kind of shame you for that. That would be an example of like poor boundaries. And there's obviously many more that are even more significant and hurtful than that. But I would say that's maybe a common one that people could fall into, is like, well, why aren't you coming out to dinner with us? Or why aren't you? Well, that's just not how we're going to do things around here. Or why does your kid not, isn't in the same activities that my kid is? You're a terrible parent. And they'll shame you in that reason. What would your response be to feeling like selfish?
Yeah, I think when I think about boundaries, healthy boundaries, I remember we had a guest pastor come in. Might have been Lisa Turkhurst. I can't remember, but she talked about boundaries, and she kind of had two gauges. One side was access, how much access you give a person. So that can go up and down, but it's dependent on the other gauge. And that's how responsible they are, how mature they are. And so the more responsible a person is, the more mature they are, the more access you can give them. And the less responsible they are, if you give a person a ton of access, but they can't handle information, they can't handle relationship, they can't handle the fact that you've got your own calendar, your own schedule, they get offended, they get hurt, they feel left out, they gossip, whatever it is, they're less responsible, then that person actually requires less access. And so I usually just gauge that. I look personally and just go, and part of this is how I was raised, like, I'm going to live my life and who I am. I love people. I love serving people. I love having people in our home. I love ministry. And I'm going to be who I am confidently. And I'm not going to lose sleep over who I'm not able to get to. I can't be everybody's hero. I can't be everybody's best friend. I can't show up to every party, every birthday party. I'm going to miss people. And do I trust that when I lay my head down at night, that God is the one that takes care of people, and I'm not the savior of the world. And so I'm going to be responsible with who I'm supposed to serve and who I'm supposed to love and who I'm supposed to give access into my life. But I'm going to miss people. And if you're the personality, you can't miss anybody. You got to get back to everybody immediately, and you stress about what you missed and who you missed. You're going to live an anxious life. And I think you got to let that go. Do what you can do with the same 24 hours that everybody else has, and trust that God is going to care for the people that you're not able to care for. And he will, and he does.
And I think about boundaries in the way that, how do I know if my boundaries are selfish or if they're not selfish? And I think a general way, obviously throughout life, you're going to have different changes, but a general way to think about it is my target always moving? Because if you say to people, well, we're not going to, we just don't want to go out to that restaurant. We don't want to go on vacation because it's expensive. And then your family, to accommodate for that, says, oh, well, why don't we bring food over the house and we can take care of it and pay? Well, no, I don't want to do that. Well, that's just being unfair in what you're really saying is, I didn't want to spend time with you, but you used an excuse of that it's too expensive, versus, oh, thank you so much for accommodating me. You're actually loving me by accommodating the things that we're walking through. And I think that's what a healthy family does at times.
Yep.
Or, hey, you go on that trip and they go and they have a blast, but then you don't make them feel bad about going without you when they could have afforded it in their budget or not. And so I think sometimes in the name of boundaries, we put things up, but then we have a moving target of how to reach us. And we all fall victim of that. But I think that's a healthy way to understand, are my boundaries healthy or am I being selfish? And I think seeing, is my target consistently moving to just avoid anybody getting in, I think is a good way to think about it.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.